Waiting for audio to connect for Rick Laughland.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. It's Trevor Siemian.
Number one in your
Number
hearts. Number 54 in your playbook and depth chart because he's on the practice squad.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. It is a special Sports Talk Nation podcast as we are. Well, it's a collection of three of us here, three very miserable, ornery Jet fans, as we are sitting here with a lot to discuss because as everything is starting to fall apart for Jets Nation, we want to sit here and kind of talk it out. So we are all wondering how the Jets going to figure this thing out. As right now they sit at 1-2, they got the Kansas City Chiefs coming into town. It's not going to be a fun time, although a few of us are going to be there watching, surrounded by Chief fans and Taylor Swift fans in the building, and maybe a couple of Jet fans here and there. But let me just introduce people here. We got Dan Feuerstein, of course, of BlogTalk Radio, of course, Feuerstein's Fire program, and from the now newly created Jets podcast on iHeart Radio, Mr. Rich Laughland.
Good to be with you.
Good to be with you guys. All right, so where should we begin? My God, my mind is blown. So Trevor Siemian is now back with the Jets, as he is now on the practice squad. He's not going to be active this week. When the story broke, the three of us were basically screaming at each other through Twitter about this move. I don't love the move. I mean, it's if anything, it just kind of reaffirms that Zach Wilson is the Jets guy moving forward. They're not going to move off of him. He's going to be the guy hooker by crook. I don't know how quickly Trevor Siemian can study the Jets playbook and Nathaniel Hackett's offense, which is supposed to be very complex, and be ready to start. And by that point, when it's ready, the Jets could be well out of it. From that point, what are you going to get out of him when he does come in? So it's kind of disappointing because a lot of people wanted someone like a Nick Foles. Some people mentioned Carson Wentz. We've heard of the trade rumors of Kirk Cousins, which I didn't think was ever going to happen. But this is what the Jets decided to do. So I'll start off. Rick, you go first, and then we'll go to Dan.
Well, I saw the Twitter news when I saw that the Jets were signing. I saw Trevor, and I thought, oh boy, maybe it's a trade for Trevor Lawrence. But of course, all this was a glorified PR move, courtesy of Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas, to try to appease, like you said, we have a group therapy session here, angry Jet fans, three of probably millions of angry Jet fans. And the only thing the Jets did was throw us a bone. And when you go and try to sink your teeth into that bone, there's nothing in it. It's just a plastic, empty vessel like Trevor Siemian. And he's basically, like you said, Michael, going to need a few weeks now to absorb this offense. Zach Wilson has had 4 months. What has he been doing over the last 4 months? I mean, you're going to be at the game on Sunday. I'm there and I'm watching. And these are not tight window throws. This is not that Zach Wilson has to go through progressions and nuances. This is an offense under Nathaniel Hackett that is vanilla as it gets. There's no pre-snap motion because this offense was designed for Aaron Rodgers, who does not even like pre-snap motion. And it's even been further watered down and simplified for Zach Wilson. And the fact that he could not play within the confines of this system against a Patriots secondary they have a rookie cornerback who's playing exceptionally well, but missing 2 critical parts in their secondary, and he could not complete basically a pass in that first half, is just beyond me. So again, Belichick's dominance over the Jets continues, 15 straight. Now that Tom Brady is long since retired, another Super Bowl later with Tampa Bay, and he's a distant memory, the Jets still can't figure out New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. And again, this move for Trevor Siemian is just basically a PR stunt that's going to silence maybe a small portion of the fan base that has the wool pulled over their eyes. But for those of us that have the light on upstairs, we all know that this is going to be Zach Wilson's train that he's going to conduct until the damn thing comes off the mountain and the whole tracks collapse from underneath the team, because they are on the verge of that happening right now.
Feuerstein's Fire.
I mean, there's nothing much more I can say than what Rick did, because the truth of the matter is that it's just getting very, very annoying. I wouldn't say annoying. It's getting very, very pathetic to see Robert Saleh standing up at that podium to just, tell us Zach's the guy. Zach's the guy. And the truth is that we have a very good offense. We have a very good defense. I think our special teams is very good. The problem is the one position that is not moving the offense forward is the quarterback. Because even though we have watched it within our own eyes, how Zach was doing this and Zach was doing that, what was he doing? Nothing. He is a one-read quarterback, and he sticks to that one read, and he doesn't look around to see where he can throw it. You know, there's a play I saw on Twitter where he threw it to Lazard, but Garrett Wilson was wide open. He broke away from his defender, and he still threw it to Lazard, who was covered. And even if Lazard was open, it was for a millisecond. A millisecond opened. So I don't know what the hell is going on with him. It's the same old crap. And it's not so much it's Bill Belichick's dominance right now, because it's not. It's the ineptitude of Zach Wilson, who cannot make anything happen and put this team on the road to a victory, to a win, to get this team to finally break that streak. Because the truth of the matter is this: Zach Wilson is inept. It's him, but it's also, again, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, because they never got a veteran quarterback to prevent him from sitting down in his rookie year to learn.
Well, not only that, I mean, you bring up a lot of good points there. You know, certainly Belichick's schemes certainly play a role in Wilson's struggles, you know, single high safeties, what have you. But the fact is, he had so much time in the pocket. I mean, enough time to get rid of the ball. You know, he also, I saw a statistic that he holds the ball the longest of any quarterback in the league this year so far, about 3.5 seconds, and everyone else has the ball out. You know, Tua Tagovailoa, for example, gets it out within 2 seconds. And I'm sitting there watching the game last week with Wilson. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, 1, 2, 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3, shoot. It's like the Rockettes. You know, they do 1, 2, 3, kick, right? I mean, same kind of concept. Get rid of the football. He doesn't do that. The offensive line has its own issues, and that's on Joe Douglas, who's done a very poor job. For a guy who was touted as the offensive line guru, he hasn't exactly been a guru. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, as far as fixing the O-line is concerned over the last few years. Now, the thing that really is interesting is this. You bring up Zach Wilson's ineptitude. We saw there was a video of one of the Kansas City players who got interviewed this week, and he kind of chuckled at the idea of like going up against the Jet offense. He's like, let me think what they do right. He did that kind of thing. And then there's a story by Rich Laughland that Robert Saleh may be on the precipice of losing the entire locker room and it's all going to implode. I mean, that if this could lead to a whole bunch of things. And I really want to get to all of them, because if Robert Saleh loses this locker room, and we're starting to see it kind of come apart a little bit, with Garrett Wilson yelling at Zach Wilson, we have Michael Carter yelling at one of the position coaches, Embry. If he loses the entire locker room, and we haven't even hit October, what's going to happen when we're sitting here, you know, come November, when the Jets are, you know, let's say 1-6 or 2-7, and there's really no hope in sight, and the playoffs are over, and you did nothing as far as Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh is concerned to get a quarterback in here that really would have been a better backup to Rodgers than anybody else. I know they brought in Tim Boyle, but they obviously have no confidence in him. You know, why else would they stick with Zach Wilson, or you now bring in someone like Trevor Siemian off the street? So that's on them at the end of the day.
No, it is. And let me tell you, and I apologize if I'm cutting off Rick. I don't mean to, but, you know, here's the problem is that, look, there's only so much you can do in free agency. There's only so much you can do in the draft. But at the same time, you know, when you're waiting for Dwayne Brown to get healthy to at least practice. He did not have a snap in practice, never had a snap during preseason, until he finally came in the week where he was cleared to participate in practice. Was already after training camp was over and after the preseason games were over. And that's where you saw where basically, I don't care what anyone says, that the Jets screwed themselves, because once again, Dwayne Brown just got back from finally being cleared to play, or at least to practice. And then you got a revolving door in Laken Tomlinson, who cannot stop.
I think he's gotten a little passionate, but go ahead, Rick.
You know, I will say that the New York Jets, this was an ill-conceived plan from the start. The 5 players that are starting right now, I know Dan has his issues with Laken Tomlinson, but it was well documented. You mentioned it, Michael, a lot of experts. I thought the same thing. How Dwayne Brown, at 38, going 39 years of age, is with golf a torn rotator cuffs, was going to come missing the majority, if not all of training camp, preseason, and just be plugged in at the left tackle, the blind spot for a 39-year-old quarterback. And you look back and you say all these missteps that were taken along the way. Is it really shocking that Aaron Rodgers got injured? And look, do we expect it to be the 4th play of the season? No. Did Joe Douglas have a backup plan for if Aaron Rodgers went down, if it was this catastrophic scenario, or let's say he missed a quarter or 2 or a game or 2? No. And I feel as though, I know Robert Saleh deserves a lot of blame for how he's handled Zach Wilson, coddling him. But I'll say it felt like Groundhog's Day being at that stadium on Sunday. How many times have I watched, going back to last October 30th against the Patriots, Zach Wilson under center, John Franklin Myers roughing the passer penalty that totally reverses what could have been a runaway victory for the Jets. And the Jets had ample opportunities offensively to try to get into the end zone. And when was Zach Wilson his most effective? When he basically was playing backyard football in that second half, and specifically in that 4th quarter, when it was hurry up and go, move the ball, no huddle, essentially. And, if Nathaniel Hackett is able to adapt, that maybe that's what the Jets have to do. I'm not saying they have to go hurry up mode all the time, but maybe it's no huddle. It's so watered down where Zach Wilson just basically is not playing so robotic. It seems as though he's thinking and overthinking and doesn't want to make any type of mistakes because he knows the vitriol of the fan base is coming. Well, guess what? You don't throw any touchdowns. You lose to an arch rival team in the Patriots that are basically a shell of what they were. You're gonna catch flack anyway. So for me, this whole Jets season completely unraveled. And honestly, though, what else is Robert Saleh supposed to say? He has to toe the company line. He is beholden to Woody Johnson, who's the owner, and Woody Johnson clearly has his sights set on Zach Wilson taking the torch from Aaron Rodgers and becoming the eventual starter. That was one of the major reasons, aside from the Jets trying to be a Super Bowl team, aside from Aaron Rodgers trying to change the culture. Zach Wilson, when the Jets and Packers had their joint practices last year, Zach Wilson looked up to and thought that Aaron Rodgers was a mentor. So the fact now that there may be ownership pressure on Joe Douglas, and of course, is Saleh going to throw Joe Douglas under the bus? Is he going to go against what his owner is going to say? He's going to toe that company line. I think he kind of backed off his support of Zach Wilson today by criticizing him softly, probably not as harshly as he should. But at the end of the day, the defense, while it wasn't the 85 Bears, you can thank DJ Reed because the rest of the year now you got to compare them. That's the bar they've set, is they have to be the 85 Bears. But, I mean, the defense basically let up nothing in that second half, and they still couldn't get out of their own way offensively. So I will say, Saleh, has he shown to be a guy that can get a defense to play at an elite level? Yes, they didn't take the football away. They didn't make critical third down stops. This, to me, was a Groundhog Day game because it felt like the defense had the same issues it had last year. Zach Wilson had no understanding or comfort level in the offense. And I just want to see whatever slight improvement, like Nathaniel Hackett said, week by week by week. But now it goes to the coaching staff. You have to put him in a position to succeed. Maybe they're putting too much on his plate, even though they are watering down and simplifying the offense.
Yeah. Dan, check your audio. Can't hear you. Anyway, but just to piggyback on some of those comments.
I'm on. I'm sorry about that.
There it is. Okay. But,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Very quick.
Well, I just want to say this, and I want to say that Rick is right, because here's the thing. Robert Saleh is not going to heavily criticize his players in front of the media. He's not going to blast any players that they do wrong in front of the media. He's going to protect them as much as they could. He is a coach speak. Yes, we have to accept that, unfortunately. But the truth of the matter is this. I believe that Robert Saleh is letting them have it during film sessions. He has to. He has to tell them in front of their faces that what you're doing is wrong, and why are we still repeating ourselves? He's probably telling Zach the same thing. We've helped you enough as it is. Why are you not helping us? But he won't say that to the media. He won't say that towards the fan base. He's going to protect his players because he's going to tell them closed doors. That's the truth. And whether people want to believe that or not, that's fine. I don't care, because that's the reality of the situation. You're not going to have Robert Saleh blast his players in front of the media, nor in front of the fan base. He's never, ever going to do that. But at the same time, there was some improvement against Dallas. let's just be fair here to Zach Wilson just a little bit. There was a little bit of improvement, and the only reason why he threw those 3 interceptions was the game was already out of hand. The defense was completely crap. He had some moments, and when there was moments where he did run with the ball to get those first downs towards the end of the first half, that's the positive. I was looking for that in this game against New England, but whatever positives, as small as they were, should have been improved against the Patriots, and he basically reverted back to the shell of his former self. And when you have the legendary Joe Namath, who's already asking for Zach Wilson to be traded out of here, Joe Namath, he's saying he's had enough. He's seen enough. What more do you need when you have a legend like that who's won you that Super Bowl such a long time ago who says he wants him gone?
Yeah, I mean, this gets to some of my greater points that I wanted to bring up tonight, because you have Namath throwing the team on, not throwing the, I don't want to say throwing the team under the bus, being very critical, more critical than we've ever seen or heard him ever of any quarterback or team. I mean, he's seen the butt fumble. We all have the butt fumble and Geno Smith and the Tim Tebow. Never did you hear anything from Joe Namath other than just positivity. This is the first time we've actually seen him be actually really critical, and understandably so, and really being openly honest about what's going on with the Jets. You have Fireman Ed doing the same thing. And it's kind of led to something that really big picture-wise really concerns me. And Rich Eisen, I'm going to give credit to Rich Eisen because he brought it up on his show, where he mentioned Aaron Rodgers doing all of his rehab and having a surgery, which he's not against it, doing it all in California. Rodgers responding to Joe Namath, responding to Jet fans, and responding to the locker room supposed turmoil on the Pat McAfee show in California, and saying, guys got to grow up, and, the Jet fans need to show up. Don't sell your tickets to Chief fans. And then you have Fireman Ed throwing it back in his face saying, well, why don't you show up? And Rich Eisen said, at any moment now, you're going to have the fans going after Aaron Rodgers for being all the way in California and being distant from the team. Now, there may be a reason why he's in California, and there's probably a very good reason, but it's a very fair point, and now we're starting to see it slowly happen. And it also adds to this layer for me, guys, is this. Who is really running the ship? Because if any other circumstance, with the way Zach Wilson has played, he would have been pulled bench. They would have signed another quarterback, maybe like a Carson Wentz. Maybe they would have made or Nick Foles or somebody. But is there a thought going on in that upstairs with Woody Johnson, with Joe Douglas, with Robert Saleh, the whole crew there, thinking, look, we're going to run it back next year with Aaron Rodgers in 2024. Let's just, I don't want to say tank, but let's just, take our foot off the pedal, because we're going to have our savior, so-called, back here in 2024. Maybe have Aaron Rodgers telling Woody Johnson in his ear saying, hey, look, I'm going to come back. Things are going to be fine. We hear him with all the missives saying, I'm going to be back for the playoffs, if the team makes the playoffs, which is not going to happen, obviously. But you hear all these things like that. So I have to sit there and wonder if, let's say things went totally south. Let's just say the Jets finished 3-14. And logic would tell you that would mean the end of both Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, or if not very much on the hot seat. Would Aaron Rodgers go to Woody Johnson and say, hey, look, if you clean house, I don't know if I'm going to come back, and maybe that would cause Woody Johnson to not make a move. These are things that I've been thinking about. So it's all these things that are going on right now that may be going on behind the scenes. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. It may not be going on behind the scenes, but I think it's something that we all have to start to think about. And that's why I kind of like what Rich Eisen brought up about the fans going up against Rodgers. We heard Evan Roberts bring up mercenaries, and we're starting to see that kind of fraying right now as things are starting to fall apart here in week 4. Go ahead, guys. Rick, you can start that.
That's been the most disappointing part to me, is the finger pointing. And again, this is the same story as last year. It's a understandably frustrated offense. Still have a couple people that I know that are Jets reporters, and they said by the time they even got into that locker room on Sunday, all the defensive players got out of there. They didn't even shower, basically, just threw on street clothes and got out of Dodge. And why do they do that? Because they didn't want to answer in front of the media firing squad and be defensive of Zach Wilson and try to, player speak, not coach speak, and try to dance around the 100,000-pound gorilla in the room that Zach Wilson is just not a starting caliber quarterback. And for me, again, it just goes back to the fact that Joe Douglas, is this an ego thing? Is this just that he still is holding out hope and the owner's holding out hope that Zach Wilson can be the long-term answer? At the end of the day, we keep saying it time and time again. You cannot double down on a mistake, and that's exactly what this regime is doing. And to tie yourself to a sinking ship in Zach Wilson is beyond me because, again, I have a feeling that based on the owner and Woody Johnson, that he is going to bring this regime back no matter what, that he has a built-in excuse already. Even if they go 3-14, even if they go 1-16, they literally can say that this was a year that we did not plan to lose Aaron Rodgers. It's a developmental year for Zach. We're going to put all the pieces back together. And this offense was built for Aaron. We brought in Cobb, we brought in Lazar, we brought in, Billy Turner, etc. All these pieces that were supposed to be there for Aaron Rodgers now will be there again next year. It's a lot of wishful thinking. You know how quickly things change in the NFL. And I just feel that it's a disservice to the fans, disservice to the fans that are going to the games, season ticket holders, sponsors. They have 6 primetime games. No, none of these people are signed up. You're going to get flexed out of some of these games. Nobody wants to see Zach Wilson go 8 of 20 for 104 yards against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, so I think the Jets, what their plan is going to be is they're going to stay the course. They're going to try to, this is obviously not a winnable game against Kansas City. Nobody expects them to win that. Kansas City, then followed by at Denver, and then back for the Eagles. I think after that Eagles game, they're going to reevaluate and reassess. And the one name you have to keep an eye on is Kirk Cousins with Minnesota because they're 0-3. If they lose to Carolina, which is unlikely, still, even at 1-3, they play the Kansas City, followed by Green Bay, and then the 49ers. They could realistically be 1-5 or, maybe 2-4, but still that division is winnable. But Kirk Cousins could have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But at that point, the Jets could be so dead and buried in a very competitive AFC, it won't even matter anyway. And what's the point of a 1-year rental and Kirk Cousins taking on that contract when Aaron's going to come back anyway next year? So that the Jets are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're literally in purgatory right now and have all win now pieces except the one centerpiece that you need in quarterback and Zach Wilson. He's the one black sheep on this entire roster.
Yeah. Dan?
I mean, I'm agreeing with Rick because I really think that both Douglas and Saleh are going to remain on the Jets because of the whole situation that happened to Aaron Rodgers. I don't see them being fired. I don't see them being released. And let me be fair here. I want to be fair here to both Saleh and Douglas. They have done a good job since they've been here, but at the same time, both men, more Douglas than Saleh, because Douglas was a general manager here before Saleh was hired as a head coach. Douglas has had more negatives than positives. That's the truth. Because he's had poor free agency pickups and he's had some poor draft classes as well. And that's also including holding on to hope to Zach Wilson. Robert Saleh has had some negatives as well with some coaching decisions. And even though it looks like he's basically, running a sinking ship at this point in time, there's nothing you can do because, he's got to coach this season. We're already 3 games into this. And the Jets are, amazingly, the Jets are 1-2. They could have been 0-3 just as easily. They could have been easily 0-3 if they did not. Well, let's put, honestly, Josh Allen helped the Jets win with the 3 interceptions. And of course, the whole Xavier Gibson situation. But still, though, I don't see either one of them losing their jobs. They're going to be back here for next year. That's for sure. And I agree with Rick. Aaron Rodgers, if he's poised to come back for 2024, which he says he will be, I think he will remain. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. But the point we're making is you have a season right now. And what is that going to be that fix? Because as you said, Michael, and we all agree with you, Siemian is not truly the answer. They are, and I saw this on Twitter, on ESPN today from Adam Schefter, that the Jets are talking to the Vikings about Kirk Cousins. They're trying to make a deal. But is it possible to bring him over on a rental year if the Vikings go 0-4, 1-5, whatever have you? No. I think it's not even worth exploring Kirk Cousins.
Well, I mean, if the Jets keep sinking further and further out of it, there is no point in bringing in Kirk Cousins because then you're just shipping him from one bad team to another bad team.
That's it.
Doesn't he have a no trade clause? Because I could swear he does. He does.
He
does.
does, but he could waive it if he wants to.
No, but why would the thing is it goes back to 4 years ago, pre Sam Darnold, when the Jets were, considering, either drafting Darnold or going out and getting a veteran quarterback. That veteran quarterback was Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins used the Jets to get more money out of the Vikings, ironically. So why would he want to now all of a sudden say, "Oh, you know what? Let me go to the Jets. They're a mess, just like the Viking." I just can't see it. I just don't see it at all. I
No,
don't help them.
I can't see it either. I just don't think it's not. I honestly, and I agree with you because I don't think it's worth it. I just don't think it's worth it at all. I mean, if you want to get a quarterback to say, you know what, you're only here for this season and that's it. And if they want to do that, fine. Which I know that's why they brought in Simeon, even though we all agree he wasn't worth the contract to be written on. Period. But what are you going to do? Unfortunately. I mean, right now, and I'm not saying I believe in this, but at this point in time, any quarterback that's even a smidge better than Zach Wilson right now is a good quarterback. I hate to say it. I don't want to say it, but you have to say it, unfortunately, because right now Simeon is here. And to be honest with you, I would rather put Boyle back on the practice squad and just elevate Simeon just to elevate him to be on the game day roster and see what happens, because it doesn't matter what's going to happen. We all know the Chiefs are going to blow the Jets out of the water now because Zach Wilson's inept to lead this offense down the field, period.
Fans, get the
I,
Chiefs this week.
yep, exactly. I'm sorry. You guys know me. I try to be as positive as I can be about the team. I try to look at the positive side of things. I'm done with it. I've had enough of it. It's just been so inept. And so I'm just so disgusted.
Let me just preface this by saying that is something that where I call BS in a lot of ways on the Jets, because they keep saying that, we believe in Zach. We believe in Zach. Well, if you believe in Zach, you benched him twice last year for Mike White, and you had all the players running around with Mike White t-shirts. Then you spent your entire offseason trying to find a replacement, including Derek Carr. And if you had brought Carr in, Zach Wilson probably would have been traded, because Carr would have been a 4 or 5 year commitment. That's the end of Zach Wilson. So the story now that they're in, will you believe in Zach? Will you believe in Zach because he's your only option right now? That's it. There's nobody else. Rick, go right ahead.
You know what's sad, but also comical? I mean, the Jets have not exactly had an embarrassment of quarterbacks, embarrassment of riches at the quarterback position. Just look over the last 10 years. I mean, Luke Falk, you have Greg McElroy, you have Mark Sanchez, who now in perspective, when you look over the last 10 to 12, 13 years you have to rank Mark Sanchez right up there with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Zach Wilson, and you go up and down that list, go back 20 years, he might be the worst Jets quarterback in the history of the franchise. So, that's why when you bring in a guy like Trevor Siemian, the only logical thing I can think of is because Aaron is gone and Rodgers was basically holding Zach's hand, letting him understand what he's doing right, what he's doing wrong, coddling him, as was Hackett, as is Saleh, etc. Now that he doesn't have that veteran guy, and Tim Boyle, realistically, he's not an option. Look at his college. Just go back and look at his college stats. I know you sent that to me, Michael. I saw that. It's just eye-popping. He's not a viable option. So they're just hoping that the light bulb goes on for Zach Wilson. But you don't need to evaluate him for a whole season to tell you what you already know, is that he's not a starting caliber quarterback. He needs at least a year, maybe even 2 years behind Aaron Rodgers, hoping he comes back to even think about getting back on the field and becoming a starter again. And you hate to waste a season, and you look at ahead of the Jets schedule. Obviously, they have the Chiefs on Sunday night, followed by going to Denver and then the Philadelphia Eagles. Their best case scenario to start the year is 2-4. So you look, even if you do bring in a Kirk Cousins here, you have already a divisional loss to the Patriots. You do have, a out of conference loss potentially to the Eagles, so that doesn't matter as much, and the Cowboys. But you basically have to, the rest of the way, go 7-4 to even sniff any type of playoff position. And, they got through the thick of the schedule. So you still have Miami twice. You obviously have to go up to New England. You have to go up to Buffalo. That is going to be a tall task. So, and I wonder with Aaron Rodgers now, if this does devolve into what you're predicting, Michael, a 3-14 type of season, is Aaron Rodgers going to do what he did in Green Bay, where he's going to say, wait a minute, why you're drafting a quarterback now because you have the number 4 overall pick? I want win now pieces now. I want you to trade those picks and go get Devontae Adams if he's still available. So, I mean, the Jets can't, they have to plan for the long term, but they have to be in the here and now. Like Dan said, we're 3 games into the season. To throw in the white towel and just trot Zach Wilson out there to throw him out to the Wolves would be totally senseless. And we all know how this dumb, stupid movie is going to end. It's going to end in turmoil, and Zach Wilson basically probably never being able to regain confidence and probably never being welcomed back by this fan base again. I think you've reached almost a point of no return. If you were to have benched him now or benched him in the first half of that Patriots game, maybe down the road you give him another look. But now it's almost like the ship has sailed on Zach Wilson. Joe, I hate to say Joe Namath's right, but you might be in a position. I don't care if Aaron's going to be here and babysit and coddle him and hold his hand. Just at this point, it might just be better just send him to another destination where he can learn behind another quarterback.
Maybe. Dan, we're going to hit final thoughts here because my clock is running out. So Dan, go right ahead.
The worst quarterback before Zach Wilson ever came was Browning Nagel, and he never survived after a year. I mean, he had a couple of games, and then all of a sudden, gone.
Yeah.
This kid has got.
How about Kellen Clemens?
Kellen Clemens was still like a backup still. He was a backup to Chad Pennington.
Brooks Bollinger. I mean, just go and try to find
we know the list.
The worst.
But Browning Nagel's supposed to be a starter. Browning Nagel's supposed to be the future starter of the Jets after the Ken O'Brien era. And he was complete crap after a couple of games. And then the Jets had nothing. And then they had to go and try and get different quarterbacks to, replace him. And some of them had decent years. Neil O'Donnell was coming off a Super Bowl from the Steelers. They've had, well, look, I'm going all the way back. I know, but still though, the point I'm making is that this is the worst quarterback they've ever had since Browning Nagel. That's just the honest truth. Forget about these other quarterbacks they've brought over, because the truth of the matter is they've been basically backups or third stringers, forced to be starters because either the starting quarterbacks were hurt or they just weren't good enough anymore, and you threw them into the fire. That's all it is. Browning Nagel is the only legitimate name I can think of that was considered the future of the Jets, and he couldn't do a damn thing. Zach Wilson is supposed to be the future of the Jets, and now he's not doing a damn thing either because they ruined him and he ruined himself. That's all it is. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year. I don't know what's going to happen after this Sunday night against Kansas City. All I can say is this. If everyone does go to the game, stay till halftime to, they're going to do something for Joe Klecko and then leave the stadium if the score is completely gone, because it's just, I'm sorry, because that's the only thing you should stay for is something for Joe Klecko, then go, because I don't see it getting any better. And I'm usually not like this, but unfortunately you see it, I see it. I don't know if we'll ever get another win until November or December. I'm sorry. I just don't see anything.
Maybe the Las Vegas game when I go out there for the Raiders game, they'll win that game. The Giants game will be a tie. It'll be the Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones will each throw 5 pick sixes in the game, so it'll be terrible. But just to wrap it up, guys. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just a cataclysmic disaster. You brought up Browning Nagel, good point right there, because what led to Boomer Esiason, kind of the same thing with the Jets. With Rodgers, they brought in Boomer Esiason, kind of this old gun MVP to try to fix things, and didn't work out. And it's happening now with Rodgers. So all I can say is it's gonna be a barn burner this week, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Rick, the final thoughts. We got like a minute.
Yeah. Look, I'm not as gloom and doom as Dan is. I think that is a winnable game going out to Denver, and Sean Payton. You've seen the total disarray. I mean, my God, they gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, a record-setting day. The Dolphins would have set the record, but they basically sat on the football at the end. So again, I think the plan has to be get to that bye week, sit and try to get Kirk Cousins, hope things unravel there. And then week 7, October 29th against the Giants, you got to hope at 2-4 best case scenario, you have Kirk Cousins out there to try to beat the Giants. And maybe that's a pushing block to get this season back on track. That's a best case scenario for the Jets at this point.
It is. Folks, I want to thank you all for tuning and listening. Talk to you next time.